She Who Dares wins. Can you tell me how you've dared and won?
This time last year, I was unable to walk following picking up a disease in Thailand. I desperately needed a goal. 8 months later, I had just run 200 miles across Tajikistan in a week. I had been on a bike ride. I thought I might have had sunstroke, and I've done this before. I've pushed myself too much, got sunstroke on a holiday, and my flatmate's been like, great. I'll leave out the gory bits. But there was a point where all of the blood had drained out of my hands. My hands were stark white. I had gone totally white. And I remember just going up to my flatmate going, is this normal? She said, no.
Oh, wow.
Over the next couple of days, my hands and feet continued to swell up. So I couldn't stand up, I couldn't put any weight on my feet. I couldn't move my arms, I couldn't dress myself at all. They couldn't ever quite work out what it was, but it was either chikungunya or parvovirus. I desperately needed a goal. I have to have something to look forward to. 7 days and about 200 miles. So you're running kind of a marathon a day.
Yeah, across Tajikistan.
Across Tajikistan at altitude, and you're staying in homestays and wild camping, and I had never done anything like it.
Hello and welcome back to the She Who Dares Wins podcast. And my guest today is Lucy. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right, so you've been a recommended guest, which I always love. No pressure.
No pressure, exactly.
But She Who Dares Wins. Can you tell me how you've dared and won?
I have spent quite a lot of my long runs recently trying to work out the best way of answering this question and coming up with so many long-winded answers. So I think the kind of long and short of it is this time last year, I was unable to walk following picking up a tropical disease in Thailand. 8 months later, I had just run 200 miles across Tajikistan in a week.
Whoa. Okay.
So that is the short answer.
That's pretty epic. So take us back to what happened in Thailand.
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest.
Oh, right.
My flatmate and I were there for New Year. We had 2 weeks, kind of island hopping, and then we had a long hike planned. Got to about the 2nd of January and I started not feeling very well. I had been on a bike ride. I thought I might have had sunstroke, and I've done this before. I've pushed myself too much, got sunstroke on a holiday, and my flatmate's been like, great, well done. There's a theme here. I tend to push myself quite hard. So I thought that, and I thought, okay, don't feel very well. Go and lie down. Hope I'll be all right. Felt fine. The next morning, felt even worse. Really bad stomach. I then had to get on a ferry, a 4-hour ferry. I managed to hold it all together. To get on a ferry, and then an hour's taxi journey. Got straight to our hotel. And the next day we were due to be flying out to Chiang Mai. So it was just an hour's flight, but still a flight. And I suddenly felt really, really unwell. I'll leave out the gory bits. But there was a point where all of the blood had drained out of my hands. My hands were stark white. I had gone totally white. And I remember just going up to my flatmate and going, is this normal? She said, no.
Oh, wow.
So I had about 24 hours of really, really bizarre fever, where I was either sweating buckets, freezing cold. It was just, the whole thing was horrific. The poor bathroom as well in that hotel.
That's where friendships come from, right?
Yeah. I managed to get on the plane up to Chiang Mai because it was just an element of I have to go. Like, there's nothing else I can do, or else the whole holiday's ruined. So I have to get to Chiang Mai. I got to Chiang Mai, had 2 more days of being really unwell, and then started to feel a bit better. Then my flatmate had a colleague out there, so we went to stay with him. He was brilliant. He just he's British, lives out there. He's going, you're home now. Gave me a big, strong cup of Yorkshire tea and some salty crackers. He was like, right, look after you. And then by the afternoon, we were out on his motorbike all over the hills. So there was an element of that. Felt a bit unwell. By the time we got to Bangkok, and then by the time we were getting on I had a massage in the morning before we flew back home. By the time I got to the airport, I couldn't really lift my bag. My arms started to hurt. And I was like, massage is probably not a good idea. Maybe she just wasn't as good as the other ones that I've had for the last 2 weeks. By the time we got to Shanghai, which is where we were changing, I couldn't take my jacket off. My arms had just kind of seized up.
Yeah.
By the time I went to Gatwick, I couldn't get out of my seat on the flight. I was having to kind of do a rock and roll thing. I couldn't use my arms at all and started to hurt breathing. Again, that theme of me pushing myself comes in because other people have said, you know, how did you get off the flight? I was like, I just got off the plane. No, you didn't ask for any help? No. Got flatmate at one point had to kind of like slap my hands away because I was trying to drag our bags off the carousel and put them on the trolley, and she was like, just stop, you can't move your hands.
Oh, wow.
Got back to our flat and I just kind of sat on the sofa and cried because I was in so much pain I didn't really know what to do. But by this point I think I still thought it was a muscular massage thing, and for me it was like, I'm used to running injuries, I'm used to pushing myself through things, I'll just push through. By the evening it hurt to breathe, so my flatmate was like, you've just got off a flight, you've got to call 111.
Yeah.
I had to go to A&E. I was there till like 2:00 in the morning because no one could quite work out what was wrong. In the end, they kind of said, we think you've done some damage to your chest wall. No, but it's 2:00 in the morning. Go home, take all these painkillers and call your GP if it doesn't get any better in a couple of days. Then my fingers and thumbs started to swell up and my big toes. I was like, this doesn't feel normal.
God.
But at this point, I still just thought it was, I think that by this point they were saying, oh, we think you're just having an arthritic reaction to food poisoning, because I said I had food poisoning, so they're like, it's possibly that. But over the next couple of days, my hands and feet continued to swell up. So I couldn't stand up, I couldn't put any weight on my feet, I couldn't move my arms, I couldn't dress myself at all. My flatmate's parents, God bless them, they live out in Surrey, drove me up to the hospital for tropical diseases and said, right, here you go.
All right.
Yeah.
So they kind of had a bit of an insight to...
There's a really good picture of me, because I refused to get in a wheelchair. There's a really good picture of me holding myself up on my flatmate's mum's hiking poles because I couldn't put any weight on my feet.
Wow.
And then they ran all these various tests, and because I think it had been so long since the actual point of getting ill, they couldn't ever quite work out what it was, but it was either chikungunya, which no one has ever heard of.
Sounds like a meal.
I know, exactly. It's like, oh, this sounds, what is this? Or parvovirus. But either way, it was this massive kind of joint inflammation. So to the point where I couldn't stand, I couldn't walk, I couldn't type, I couldn't write, I couldn't dress myself. And it kind of, that went on with varying degrees of severity over about 3 months.
So no treatment plan for it then?
So it was initially codeine, which I soon gave up on, and naproxen to bring all the swelling down, which did help. And eventually, again, I'm quite stubborn, and they were like, we really think a course of steroids will help. And eventually it was just, yes, okay, I'll go for the steroids. Whatever the side effects are, I think I just need the steroids. First course didn't really work, and the swelling was brought down, but I was still in absolute agony when I walked. And like, even we were talking earlier about keeping a diary. I keep a diary, and I just reading back entries from last year. It's like a child's writing because I couldn't hold the pen properly. And I had to have, work were absolutely brilliant. I had the kindest line manager who just gave me so much help. And every time I tried to come back, she's like, well, you're saying you can't type, so please stop trying to come back to work until you're entirely better. So yeah, that went on on and off for quite a few months.
When did you start to feel better? Like, was it a very gradual thing?
Yeah. Yes and no, because I look back at photos from this time last year and I'm still out doing things. And it's that really funny thing of you can seem like you're outwardly normal, but internally you're in absolute agony, and every step hurts, or every time you laugh or move in a certain way, it really hurts.
Yeah.
So I would say I didn't start to feel entirely normal until kind of June, July maybe.
Wow.
And my feet still hurt quite a way into August as well.
Wow. Oh my God. So what made you think, when I get back on my feet, I'm going to do... It's quite common, this story, actually. But I think sometimes it's that big life pivot, isn't it? But when did it happen, and what do you think was the cause?
It happened quite early. I'm not good at sitting down, and I had to sit down for so much of the first few months of last year. And I like being active. I like walking, and just having to sit down was driving me around the bend. So there was a real element of I have to have something to look forward to.
Right, so it's the goal.
It was absolutely having a goal.
Okay.
Yeah. And then in that time, TV. I mean, I work in publishing, so I read a lot anyway. But TV just didn't appeal to me at all. I wasn't comfortable however I sat, but I could sit up in bed with books propped up on a pillow to about kind of chest height and kind of turn pages that way. So I did a lot of reading, and I did a lot of kind of armchair travel. So I was reading, there's an amazing book called Sovietistan by Erica Fatland, and this beautiful series of books by Caroline Eden, all about they're kind of travel logs and cookbooks, and they're all about kind of Eastern Europe and Central Asia. So I was reading a lot about Central Asia, and my parents had worked at the other end of the Silk Road in Xi'an. My dad had done quite a bit of work in the former Soviet Union. So there were always places I heard about growing up and places I'd always wanted to go. And not places that I could ever really convince anyone to come with me to. So it was all kind of this little neat parcel. And then it was quite literally an Instagram ad being served to me about this run. And it all came at exactly the right time. I'd been doing all this reading. I desperately needed a goal. The film was incredible. And the little kind of trailer clip of what the run is was absolutely incredible. And I was just like, yes, that I want to do that.
Wow. So we'll give some people some context out who perhaps might not have listened to the show before, but Zoe, who works with me, she's been on the show before, is a filmmaker, and Zoe actually has done quite a few of these. She doesn't run it, but she's the filmmaker on these trips. And I've also met Danny a few times, who organised these trips, and it's 7 days?
7 days and about 200 miles. So you're running kind of a marathon a day.
Yeah, across Tajikistan.
Across Tajikistan at altitude, and you're staying in homestays and wild camping. And I had never done anything like it before.
That's amazing. So an ad comes in, and did you think about it, or did you just there and then sign up?
I thought about it purely because when I saw the ad, I couldn't walk.
And timescale wise, so you're sat in your bed reading. When was this?
I think this point was probably about March, April, and I think I hit the button to sign up in about May.
And the run was in
September.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
And previous to this, you said before you came on that you were sporty and outdoorsy, but you were never really a runner.
No, I didn't start running until about 10 years ago. So that was kind of late 20s. And I was always, I was kind of outdoorsy. I liked walking. I liked hiking. I always liked swimming, but I never did it as a sport. It was always as a
just an activity,
just as a thing to do. I'd always be the first person to get into some cold water, that kind of thing. If always first person in the sea. I was at university in Scotland, always in the sea, always outside, but I'd never done anything competitively or in an organised sense. Started running in my late 20s. Again, I was ill. Again, I saw a run, signed up for it, and never having run at all before. So there's a real theme here.
Yeah, I love it.
And then didn't run my first marathon until I was 30, which I guess it's still young. But it's not like I've been running my whole life.
Yeah.
And then was very much a road marathon runner, but not particularly fast.
Yeah.
I'd say kind of solid mid-pack.
Yeah.
Did it because I enjoyed it, not for a particular time ever. Yeah. And then just over the years, kind of reading more. I listen to a lot of podcasts like yours. I listen to a lot of podcasts when I run that are inspirational women doing amazing things. And I think over the past kind of 10 years of being a runner, I've picked up so much stuff, and I've got to the point where I want to be doing that stuff, not just listening to it.
Okay.
And I don't think certainly none of my friends who I see on a kind of daily, regular basis are particularly outdoorsy. Sorry to some of them. I think a lot of, they're not, I mean, I've had friends that I've run marathons with, I've had friends who I do a lot of that stuff with who have been incredibly inspirational, amazing, but they're not people who would go and run across Tajikistan. Yeah. So I was like, actually, I just do it on my own.
Amazing. And so you had no idea as to when you would possibly get better?
I had a brilliant consultant at the Tropical Disease Hospital, and they were absolutely incredible through the whole thing. I can't speak highly enough of them.
Right.
And there was a brilliant consultant. I kind of went in and I said to her, this is roughly what I'm thinking of doing. Is this stupid? Am I going to cause myself any kind of long-term structural damage if I start to train for that?
Yeah.
And she said, September, it's kind of, was it June now? Yeah, you'll be fine.
Nice.
So I think having someone that was, I mean, my dad all the time was going, yeah, go on and do it. Yeah, it'll be great. And he's a brilliant cheerleader. He never says, oh, I don't think you should do that. It's always go for it.
Yeah.
But I think having a medical professional say, yeah, you'll probably be fine, kind of just made me think, okay,
let's go.
Then I can push through the pain. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So at what point did you get the first, run in?
I'm trying to, so I really vividly remember doing a walk I did the Seven Sisters walk across the South Downs, which is really hilly. And I did that, and it was a kind of 13-mile walk ending in Eastbourne. I did that on my own. And I remember being in pain pretty much every step of the way.
Wow.
But thinking, if I can't get this walk done today, I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was late May, possibly.
Okay.
No, maybe a bit earlier. But I remember thinking, if I can't do this, then I can't go. This is a bit of a cut-off for me.
Right, okay.
And I did it, and the next day my feet were no worse. They hadn't swelled back up like balloons. I'll show you some photos afterwards. They are horrific. They didn't look like feet.
Oh, wow.
But nothing had kind of flared back up again. So that was a point where I was like, okay. And then I was doing kind of 5K runs at that point. But I think one of the women on the WhatsApp group for the Tajikistan run at that point had just run the whole South Downs Way, and I thought, and that's like 100 miles in 4 days, so amazing thing to do. And I was like, oh my god, I'm so far behind. And I think that was just a really nice, gentle kickstart for me to then think, okay, well, I can do this.
So you get to the point in September where you're ready to fly out for this. Are you ready physically and emotionally, or how are you there?
That's I think I was really excited.
Uh-huh.
I was also quite nervous of whether I would be able to do the thing. It's a massive thing to do. Can I do this? And then you always get that thing where you're looking at other people, and the community setup had been brilliant beforehand. So we'd done a camping weekend away with some of us where we'd done 2 long runs back to back, which was kind of how we'd been asked to, or suggested that we train. We'd done a marathon trail run day all together with a few of us. And then there'd been a whole load of WhatsApp stuff and Strava stuff. But that means that you're looking at what everyone else is doing and kind of going, oh my God, that person's so much faster than me. That person's done this, or that person's had experience of this before. That person's done a 4,000 meter climb. I've never done that before in my life. The last time I went camping was Glastonbury, and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not. So all of that kind of starts to set in.
Yeah.
And then physically, and I think this must have been psychosomatic, but physically I could feel my feet starting to hurt again. I could feel across my chest starting to hurt again. And that was, I remember like slightly panicking, calling the hospital, being like, can I have an emergency steroid shot? They were like, it doesn't really work like that. I didn't go thinking there was anything seriously wrong with me. But I think it must have been a psychosomatic thing, because the second I got to the airport, of course I was fine. So
the
I think
distraction I think you get like that before. Like I definitely have had that. I did a trek up in Nepal, and I remember before I was going, I was like, oh, I don't feel very well. Maybe I shouldn't go.
Yeah. Oh, I've got this twinge. And I think normally you can kind of ignore some of that stuff, but there was an element of, is this really stupid? Am I going to get to the middle of Tajikistan and suddenly this whole thing happens again? But having called the tropical disease hospital, they were like, no,
you're good.
You're fine. Yeah.
You are going.
Yeah.
So it's not is it a race? Are you racing against other people? Or is it literally just you start on day one and you have to cover a certain amount of miles per day?
Yeah.
What happens if you don't? Do you get pulled out or?
No, it is the most amazingly inclusive thing. And this is kind of why I wanted to do it. I had a call with Danny before, kind of way back when I was literally like, what happens if I can't walk? And it's not a race. And I think that was the thing. So I'd never really run for time. That was the thing. I didn't want to get halfway through and be pulled out or not be allowed to continue. So you can, it's crossing a country on foot. You can run it, you can walk it, you can do a mixture of both. By the end with the exception of a few of the very fast people, but is anyone really running it by the end? Are you all just kind of dragging yourselves to the finish line?
Survival, right?
Exactly. So yeah, it's you run a certain amount of miles every day because you've got to get to the point where you're staying each night. But it's broken down into 3 chunks as well, which makes it so much more manageable. So you run 8 to 10 miles, you stop, you have a break. They set up these, the crew and the driver set up these amazing trestle tables full of all of the snacks.
Right.
And so you're just sitting, hanging out, chilling, usually with these incredible views. And then you get up, you run another 8 to 10 miles, then you have lunch and the drivers have cooked up an absolute feast. And then you run another 8 to 10 miles or whatever it is to your mainstay stop.
Okay.
So if you can't finish a leg, or if you need to do a leg in a car, you can do a leg in a car. It's not about, no one's timed. It's not about who's in first every day or at all ever, really. Right. It's everyone kind of supporting each other to get through this amazing thing together, which was, I think, made for an even more incredible experience.
I think it comes down to the same thing, doesn't it? It's always about the people as well as the stories. And when you do something like that, you're all going through something quite emotional, quite physical. It has to be like that. I think, that's the one thing, marathons and races are great, but you are on your own unless you do it with a mate. Yeah. And I think adventure activities like this or... even like hiking and is just, it's so cool. I think you make friendships for life as well, don't you?
Definitely. And I think having that little break in each, or having those breaks in each day was great, because if you're in a particularly tough bit and you might be on your own, you think, actually, if I can just do 5 more miles, I get to hang out with my friends again. And that was just a really nice way of breaking it down. And the people absolutely made it. I think it would have been an incredible experience without the people, but the people we had were just, it was so much fun. Yeah. And I think obviously it was hard. There was a day that everyone had a bad day, but I had a really bad day. And just being able to kind of drag myself into camp with people. We were kind of last in. I'd had such a bad day. And we walked in singing, and I was with people who stayed with me, and we walked in, kind of limped in, ran in, singing together. And there were a whole load of people there with open arms waiting to come and, they'd put your tent up for you. Oh, we sorted your stuff. You've got a space in this tent. It was a real sense of community and camaraderie.
What was the bad day? What made it so bad?
A lot of things. So everyone had been ill in some way. And I think by this point, I just wasn't really managing to keep calories in, so I think my energy was fairly depleted. I also have endometriosis, which is managed brilliantly. I'm no longer in the same kind of pain that I was in years ago, but the kind of hormonal way it's being managed is, oh look, today you're bleeding, that's fun. And there was a real kind of surprise period in the middle of absolutely nowhere.
Of course, it would be. Don't we just love those?
Right, there's no running water. I'm halfway up a mountain. All I can see is dust for miles around. Nothing is clean. I'm not clean. And on top of all of that, you've got the hormonal weight of
everything that comes
with that. So I had an entire morning of crying every time I saw a mountain because it was so beautiful. And there's a lot of mountains. So I'd be running going, oh, look at it, it's just really lovely. And that's really lovely. And then I got to lunch and just couldn't keep any calories in. And then we had a climb, and I think it was like 1,000-meter climb over 5 kilometers. So it's a chunky climb.
Yeah.
And I was tired, and I hadn't managed to eat anything decent, and I was incredibly hormonal, and got to the top of the climb, and that was fine. And then I think it was just like, we've got 5 more kilometers to go, and I was just like, I don't want to. I just don't want to. I'm really hungry, and I'm really tired, and I'm cold. And I think that was the day that kind of really broke me. But then on the flip side, the following day I had the most amazing day, and I managed to run loads of it, and I felt great. So
yeah, you've got to have those, haven't you? Those hard bits where, and it's always the point at which people quit too soon, don't they, on most things? And it's probably, I think it was universe's way of testing us, isn't it? To be like, oh no, this is the bit you've got to get through to and appreciate the whole thing.
Exactly. And I think I'm quite good anyway at pushing myself, at being like, right, keep going. But I think also having other people around you who are there to encourage you to do so as well. Yeah. So it's very much an element of like, I could sit on the ground and wait for someone to come and get me, or I could just get up and push on, and you've got that amazing community of people around you who want you to do well, who want the kind of celebrating in our successes as well.
Yeah. Well, they get it, don't they? Yeah. They understand what's there. It always fascinates me about the types of people that do these things. And would you say there was what was the common thing amongst you all? I mean, I imagine everyone was from completely different walks of life, different stories. But was there anything that you think connected you all other than just the experience?
I think there were a lot of people on that trip who were also very silly. So I think there's a real like element of silly plus adventure. And I think that, people who want to push themselves or want to have as many life experiences as they can. So I think it's a bit of that. It's kind of, is this going to be a fun, enriching, challenging experience? Yes, sign me up. And I think there were a lot of people who in their own way had that. And I think, we didn't get into the kind of deep stuff as much as I thought we might end up doing, but everyone's got a story as well. Everyone's got their own reason for why they're there to do that particular thing, whether it's raising money, whether it's in memory of someone, whether it's for someone, or whether it's you've had a particular experience and you want to push yourself or celebrate something for yourself or remind yourself that you're alive or that you're grateful to be alive. I think everyone there had a story, plus that sense of adventure. And I think that probably marries into a really good group of people.
Do you think we're... Because I always think about this, a lot more people seem to be doing adventure trips and, really pushing themselves. I don't know whether it's like a post-COVID thing, if we just got into this comfort zone, or, I was thinking about this on the walk to work the other week. Like, my bike's broken at the moment, so I've been walking. And I'm like, oh my God, when I actually think about how much walking, nothing strenuous, but walking I do, it's very little. And then I was like, but I go to CrossFit and I think, oh, well, that's okay. But actually, when you walk in, you see things you wouldn't normally see.
It's like thinking time as well, isn't it?
Yeah, like it's the decompression. I get into the office, and I'm seeing more and more women, especially with like ice swimming, cold water swimming, just wanting to push themselves. And I think, I see how far they can really go, because I don't think you can understand yourself until you've kind of hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
Which is really sad. Like it's hard to see people get to that place, but I think whatever that might be for you on a different level, and then to come back from that to then almost push it to the other end is super nice, because then you're like, well, your comfort zone.
Yes, you do, don't you?
Yeah. Do you think yours is now pushed, or do you
keep pushing?
Yeah, keep pushing.
I think there's something about, and however trite it sounds, it's kind of that. It's like, it reminds you that you're alive. It reminds you what you're capable of. I think I'm now incredibly grateful for my feet for carrying me that distance, and for my legs, and grateful to be able to do this kind of thing. So if I can do it, I want to do it.
Yeah.
And there are so many moments on that trip. And again, it sounds really saccharine or whatever. You're just there and you're like, I am so happy I'm alive. Yeah. I'm so happy I'm here. I can do this. And I'm grateful that I want to be, because it's not a given that you can be happy. That it's not a given that you want to be here. It's not a given that you want to do these things. And I think even just that gratitude for wanting to be able to do that, that gratitude for being able to be happy is something that we don't often think about.
Yeah, you're right.
But no, I it's not pushed. I will keep fishing.
There's new mountains to climb. And also you're in a country where, I've always said for years, like I would never go anywhere that ends in a stan, which is a terrible thing to say. Because Zoe was telling me all about Tajikistan and she was like, the people are beautiful, like, it is relatively safe, if you do the right. It's like most countries, isn't it? You can be unsafe in London.
Oh, God, yeah.
Probably more
absolutely.
so.
Yeah, definitely. I felt... It was interesting. So I think when I had my initial call with Danny to just talk through what it was, and he said, "Oh, and I'll talk to you about kind of security as well." I hadn't even crossed my mind.
Oh, right. So you hadn't even thought.
No.
Okay.
And I wonder if that's because I grew up with my parents who'd lived in and worked in those kinds of places. I think my dad worked in quite a few stans, and he and my mum lived in China as well in the 80s. So kind of not China as it is, very much not China as it is now.
Yeah.
That security it didn't occur to me. Maybe I should have done. I don't know.
Well, there's the run, and then you don't necessarily think of all the things around it, do you?
And it was only when I started telling people where I was going, "What do you mean you're going there?" It just hadn't occurred to me, and I definitely felt as safe, if not safer, walking around Dushanbe, the capital, the couple of days before we went. Late at night, phone in hand, people who came to talk to us wanted to know where we were from and why we were there. I certainly had no sense of feeling harassed or unwelcome or in any danger at all.
Right.
I'd walk around with my phone in my hand and my money out more readily in Dushanbe than I would in London. Yeah. And then when we were out in the middle of absolutely nowhere, the homestays we were with, the people were so kind, so lovely. The hospitality was incredible. As we were running through little villages, people would be standing kind of offering us to come into their houses for tea. Kids wanted to come and talk to us. People wanted to know where we were from and what we were doing there. There was never any sense of hostility whatsoever. And even being a woman, and it was very hot, so you're not running in very much. Again, no sense that what I was doing was in any way unwelcome or unwanted, or that I was anything other than just a person going for a run.
Yeah.
Which was really refreshing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And so were there any preconceived ideas you had about the places you were going to be running through? And was there anything, misconceptions about Tajikistan that you could kind of pinpoint?
I don't think there was much, but I think again, but when the more people had talked to me, as in the more people who didn't know about the stans and kind of said, "Oh, what if you get kidnapped?" And then that was an element where I was like, "Oh God, what if I do get kidnapped?" I don't know. And that was the only point at which, when other people kept asking me what happens if I got kidnapped, and kind of, well, you're going to be in the middle of nowhere, what will happen if you get kidnapped? Then I think there were quite a few moments in the run up to the trip where I was thinking, "Oh God, what if I do get kidnapped? I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe just talk to them and they might go talk at them and they might leave me."
So when you're running on your own then on a daily basis, because you don't necessarily set off together.
You set off, so you kind of set off in kind of groups. It'll be like the faster people go last, the people who are walking will go first, and the middle ground, it's just kind of set off as and when you like. But given that you're covering such a kind of expanse, there are times when you're running on your own, and actually that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure I did a bit of every day, was spend some time on my own, because when else are you going to be in this absolute vast expanse of nothing? By the end, you're pretty much running across desert. I mean, the dust was next level, but it's beautiful, and I really wanted to be on my own. And yes, there were moments where I thought, "Oh, I can't see another person," and if I fell down this ravine, then of course they would know, because of course there are so many kind of security measures in place, and the group pretty much knows where everyone is, and there are checkpoints, and the drivers are constantly looking out for you all. So you don't. I don't think I really realised how much work everyone was doing until kind of day 2, day 3, and you're like constantly checking where everyone is. where are these people driving back? Do they need water? Do they need help?
Oh,
There was a
okay.
lot of
Right.
kind of a lot of checks. So you're never really, you're alone, but you're not on your own.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of points where I thought, is this all right? Am I allowed to be am I allowed to be doing this? I'm just on my own in the middle of nowhere. But I don't think I was surprised at how not scared I was. Even just like going to the loo in the middle of the night, like having to cross. There was one point where the kind of outhouse was like in the middle of a field or middle of the dust, and you're crossing that at kind of 2:00 in the morning, and it is so pitch black.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
And even then I wasn't scared. And I don't know whether that's because we had such a great group of people that you knew that everyone would have your back if something happened, or whether by that point I was so comfortable with the country and the people that there was almost like, I know nothing bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
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 I'm much more scared walking home on my own in London
Tube, I know.
late at night. Yeah.
What were the moments in solitude like? What are you listening to stuff as you run? Are you a silent runner? Are you left with your own thoughts? Like, were you did it make you think about life at home? What did you learn on that journey about yourself?
I normally, if I'm running at home, if I'm running in London, I'm always listening to something, and it's usually podcasts or music. And I had downloaded so much stuff onto my phone to take with me, because I thought, could have hours a day on my own, and I want the choice. And obviously, it's no phone reception for a full week, which in itself is amazing. And if I was just enjoying myself, I wasn't listening to anything. I was just there with my thoughts. If I was having a bit of a tough day, it was just the Lord of the Rings soundtrack on repeat for the entire week.
That's like the longest. Yeah.
Because it fitted with the landscape quite nicely. And I thought I'd want to listen to podcasts and I'd want to listen to stuff of other people doing similar things, but I wanted to be so present.
Yeah, and that's
there.
this was your story almost playing out.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't really want the distraction of anyone else talking to me in my ears. It did make me think about life at home. And I think that thing of, how do I keep doing stuff? I think that the thing was, I'm loving this. Right. I love this so much. This wasn't, it was a bit of a punt because I'd never done anything multi-day before. Certainly before last summer, as I said, the last time I'd camped had been at Glastonbury. I don't do loads of outdoorsy stuff, not in the same way as some of the other people in the group. And I think the thing that it really taught me was that more. I just want more of that. I had such a great time that it was working out how I get to still do my corporate job in London, which I love. I don't want to leave London. I don't want to leave my job. And kind of trying to work out how to balance that corporate life with also getting out, having some adventures with similar-minded people.
I think that's really important to think about, is that quite a few people that come on the show, like the adventure world or the sport world is their thing, and they've managed to make, whether it's from an influencer's perspective or whether it's from an actual, like, being an elite athlete, they've managed to intertwine that with their own life. But there's very much people that have a normal job they absolutely love, but are just looking for something extra to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's really nice, because I think we're seeing more and more travel companies actually are doing things. I saw one the other day and I almost signed up, and then realised I can't just leave 2 kids and a husband and see ya for 2 months as I go to Sweden and trek across.
I mean, that sounds great. Send it to me afterwards.
But I think travel's become way more accessible, which is beautiful. And I think, as someone, I grew up, my parents were quite adventurous, and we'd go to a country, for example, like Thailand, and we wouldn't really have anywhere to stay, and we'd just figure it out.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, and I think so that's given me, I took that into my 20s and 30s with traveling, is just go where you want, when you want, and that's quite nice. But I know a lot of people would have grown up with like the traditional holidays and have not necessarily done these things, and social media is making it great because we can see what is out there, and it's like you can pick your thing. have you seen anything else that you've got your eye on?
So much stuff. It's trying to narrow it all down. My flatmate and I have actually just booked a week's trekking in Egypt in
Nice.
April. And I think I'm kind of going at it with a kind of crossing Tajikistan mentality. And she keeps having to say, it's not that. It's going to be a lot more chill. You can calm down. So we're doing that. And I think it's that thing of, I don't need to do a big thing like Tajikistan every year. It's just trying to pull out and trying to make it a bit more every day.
Yeah.
Almost trying to build part of that adventure world or that kind of extreme sport world into my everyday or into my kind of normal life. So
Okay. So how are you doing that? Or
so it's just stuff like instead of one big thing, I've got quite a couple of ultra marathons lined
I mean,
up.
they're huge.
I know they're
I'm thinking she's going for a walk around the park.
and it is that just to slightly divert, we had one of our leaders on the trip, Nick, gave us a brilliant speech on our last day where she kind of said, or penultimate day leading into our last day, like saying, this is not normal. You are not normal. And that's something that I like to remember, because I think it's really easy to think it's normal and that it's not impressive and it's not that exciting when you're in the middle of it. Well, it's exciting, but it's not that impressive when you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And it's quite easy to downplay those experiences and those achievements. And yeah, just me going, oh yeah, it's a couple of ultra marathons. No, I've got a couple of ultra marathons coming up that I'm training really hard for. So I've got one in Wales in April. Then I'm going to Egypt in 2 weeks after that. And then in July, doing Race to the Stones. So that's an ultra marathon that you can either do 50k, you can do 100k straight through, or you can do 100k broken into 2 days and camp overnight.
Wow.
So I'm doing that third option.
Right.
So it's more reminding myself that I've come back to London, I've got the life that I do like and I don't really want to change that much, but just building in those things and making sure that I have got something on the horizon almost at all times.
Yeah. No, I think that's beautiful. I think, it's cool. And I'm excited to see where you go with those. Would there ever be, we touched on briefly that you work in the publishing world. Would there ever be a book?
I don't know. It's that slight thing of, I don't know what I've done is that impressive, to be honest. Which I know sounds really stupid, but I look at all the other kind of adventure books that I read and you think, oh, you've done something that's months, it's not a week. And that week itself was amazing and impressive, and I don't want to downplay that. But I don't know, I think I'd need to do a few more bigger things. Before I'd want to dip my
I mean,
toe
there's going to be people out there that will resonate with, even just one challenge. I think that's the thing, isn't it? Is like we don't, from me perspective, like I think it's so important that stories get out, just because there's going to be like that one person that, might have tropical illness and have really suffered and be like, oh, do you know what? It's that thing, if you can't see it, sometimes you can't believe it. But no, I'm excited to see where this takes you. And you're definitely someone that I think you say like it's hard to sometimes give yourself the credit. Yeah, definitely. After I ran the marathon, I kept going, oh yeah, but I was like slow and I wasn't that great. And I was like, wow, it's a massive discredit to an achievement that actually, I don't know how much of the population do those kind of things. Ultras must be even less. Like, it's insane. So,
yeah. And it is that thing of, not we always, but a lot of people downplay their achievements. And I definitely do that.
Yeah.
I did my first 50k ultra about 3 weeks after I got back from Tajikistan and had a real moment of getting there and going, everyone else here is a proper runner. They've all got the proper kit and they've all done this before. And the woman I was doing it with was actually someone I did Tajikistan with, which was amazing. And she's incredible. She just looked at me. She's like, "You've just run across a country. What's wrong with you? We've just done this amazing thing." And she's a brilliant hype woman, and she is not someone to downplay her own achievements. So
you've got to listen to her.
Be more Bex sometimes.
I think that sound down below is our cue, but they're perfect timing. There's some building work going on downstairs, so apologise if anyone hears any background. But I just want to creep in this last message. What would you dare other women to do?
I think it's push the button on the thing that you've been thinking about So for me, it wasn't specifically going to Tajikistan and running that thing, but I knew that I wanted to push myself into multi-day adventure sport. I think it's just push the button, take the chance, do it. Yeah.
All right. Well, Lucy, you've been fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been brilliant.
Awesome.